Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our studies of Second Kings. Today we're in Second Kings chapter 24. And as we examine this chapter, we see the fall of Jerusalem into the hands of Babylon. But I want us to notice a couple of key elements to what transpires in this chapter that help inform us about other things in Scripture, but that also help us to understand what it is that's going on and why. First of all, when we look at chapter 24, in the early stages of the chapter, we have the different enemies that are coming against Judah and Jerusalem, that they're being raided from enemies on all sides. And yet it is stated in verse 3 that this takes place because of the actions of Manasseh, because of the sins of Manasseh. Now, Manasseh is going to be the great grandfather of the kings that are on the throne right now. And yet, Manasseh is really going to be the turning point in many ways for the things that are going to transpire. He is the son of Hezekiah. He is going to reign for over 50 years, as far as that goes. But he is also going to be a man who is very evil when he is on the throne. For the first few decades of his time on the throne, he is going to be described as the worst king, or the most vile king that Judah ever has on the throne. He makes the city run red with blood, innocent blood that he has shed. He is going to set up all kinds of idols and all of these various things that Manasseh does. And so it's stated in verses 3 and 4 that the things that come upon Judah are a consequence of the actions of Manasseh. Now, we noticed that Manasseh changed at the end of his life, and he made some changes that he needed to make, and he made some switches to following God and to acknowledging God and things of that nature. But it didn't undo the consequences of the things that he had done, and it did not change the hearts of the people that he had so tarnished and hardened. And so the things that are stated as happening here in verses 3 and 4 are a consequence of the actions of Manasseh. And many times, consequences don't always happen immediately, or they aren't always seen immediately. Sometimes it can be many years down the road before the consequences, the full consequences of an individual's actions are going to be seen. And that's what we see here in chapter 24 with Manasseh. The second thing that I want us to notice from the chapter comes down in verse number 15, where there we find that Jehoiakim is going to be carried into captivity. Now, this is going to be the first carrying away, as we commonly call it, of the children of Israel into captivity. There's going to be three of them that are going to take place. This one occurred in 606 BC. Now, the Babylonians have had control of the area around Jerusalem and things of that nature for about 3 years. And Jerusalem had been paying taxes and things of that nature, as we see in the first part of the chapter, until such a time as they rebel. So from 609 to 606 BC, you have Judah somewhat as a vassal state to the Babylonians. But then after the rebellion, Nebuchadnezzar is going to come and he's going to take the city of Jerusalem. And Jehoiakim is going to be carried into captivity. It is going to be at this same time, historically, that the prophet Daniel is going to be taken to Babylon, and we begin to read the events of the book of Daniel. And so this particular time frame, it falls in 606 BC, and then Zedekiah, the uncle of Jehoiakim, is going to be placed on the throne. He's going to sit there for another decade, but he's nothing more than a puppet king at this point. He is on the throne, and he somewhat has authority over Jerusalem as long as he does what King Nebuchadnezzar wants him to do. But he is by no means under his own authority to reign and to rule as he pleases. And so, for all intents and purposes, Babylon at this point controls Judah. The last thing I want us to notice comes at the very end of the chapter. And there you have the statement that is made that it is because of the anger of the Lord that these things happened in Jerusalem and in Judah. You know, there comes a point where God has enough of a people who are living unrighteously, who are refusing to follow his commandments, and who are refusing to acknowledge him. And that's what happened with Judah. You had Josiah, which was this good king, and yet even Josiah, in all the good that he did, could not turn the hearts of the people back to God fully. They still were ones that as soon as Josiah dies, they're going back the other direction again. And God had had enough. And the only way that God was going to get through to them about their situation and about their condition was going to be captivity. As a matter of fact, when you go through and you read the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah is prophesying during all of these things that occur, and you see the hearts of the people, even in the days of King Josiah, as Jeremiah prophesies. And you see a people whose heart is hardened toward God. You know, we live in a world today that very much has the same mentality toward God, and increasingly so. And we need to recognize that God eventually does respond, and God does eventually allow man to fall into the pitfalls of his own beliefs and his own actions. And so these are some of the things that I see when I look at 2 Kings chapter 24. There are warnings for us in the things that are here, but there's also historical lessons and important aspects of what goes on in Judah and Jerusalem that we need to be mindful of. Next time we will come back and we will begin looking at the final chapter of the book of 2 Kings, chapter 25. I hope you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.